I'll take the rich husband and the condo. As a thank you, I'll introduce you to my ex-boyfriend." Vanessa leaned in close to me and whispered in my ear. "You aren't suited for a rich husband or a condo. Just leave already." I had been holding my breath unconsciously, so my chest was tight. I was breathing heavily through my shoulders. "Leave." My breathing was erratic, and I couldn't speak properly. Vanessa laughed loudly at this. "Oh, Tracy, don't cry." "Sorry, Tracy. But I've decided to go through life with Vanessa." As I felt like I was about to hyperventilate, John mercilessly thrust the completed divorce papers at me. I was betrayed by both my husband and my sister. Receiving it only made me feel worse, and I squatted down, clutching my stomach.
Ha! Ha! Ha!
I could painfully feel the stares of Vanessa and John. I couldn't hold it in anymore.
Ha!
Ah. I lifted my face, which had been downcast, and let out a huge burst of laughter. There's no way I would cry. The ones who will be crying and screaming are Vanessa and John. I am Tracy Baker, a housewife in my 40s. Recently, I remarried. My husband's name is John. He's a man 2 years older than me. He used to be a resident in the apartment I own. While cleaning the apartment, he would say, "You're always working hard." Gradually, we started making small talk and it developed into a relationship. "I really thought you were just a housewife doing cleaning part-time. I'm also in my 40s. I wasn't dressed stylishly, just tying my black hair back, so it's understandable he thought that. I was really surprised when I found out you were the landlord." John, while working, was also into his hobby of investing, and by the time he realized, he had missed his chance to marry. I also have a bit of a hobby in investing, and we clicked on that. Naturally, we flowed into marriage. John always praises my investment stories with amazing. Not just that, but when I serve a simple meal, he is delighted, saying, "Delicious," and if I massage his shoulders, he looks like he could melt with happiness. He's older, but somewhat childlike and pure. I wasn't at an age to wear a wedding dress for the second time, so it felt bad for John, who was marrying for the first time, but we didn't have a wedding ceremony. Instead, the new home was a high-rise condo room, just as John wanted. Wow, what a view. Although it's just the 5th floor, John was excited looking over the city. It's just the two of us, but the room is big, really luxurious. How many times bigger than the apartment I lived in? His innocent personality at that time, who would have imagined it would change 180 degrees? The trigger was when I invited John's colleague to our home. Wow, amazing. John's colleague, Andrew, was dumbfounded, standing in the middle of the room. "This is your place?" "It's like a hotel. I've never stayed in such an amazing hotel." Surprised? "It's really incredible, right?" Asked by a proud John, Andrew tentatively sat down on the leather sofa. "Ah. This, my wife told me to bring it." John Baker received a cake from Andrew with a puzzled smile, saying, "Huh? Ah. Thanks. This is one of those cakes that they usually sell for about $10 at the service counter in supermarkets." There was no need to say it in such a snide way. Andrew shrunk a little, feeling uncomfortable. "Thank you for the cake. I really love it." Trying to change the mood, I cheerfully offered Andrew some coffee. "Ah. Thanks." Andrew took a sip of coffee, looking relieved. You know, John never used to hang out for drinks. And his lunch was always microwave food or a half-priced ready-made food. He wouldn't even buy a drink from a vending machine. He was really tight with money. So I couldn't believe it when he suddenly got married and moved into a high-rise condo. "You're amazing. Well done."
Yeah.
John chuckled and puffed up his chest. Who were those guys who said I'd never get married, huh? There's no one at the office who mocks me anymore, right? Sorry about that. Your wife is lucky. John and Andrew were joking around. John's attitude bothered me a bit, but maybe that's just how men talk. Andrew then lowered his voice. But your house is luxurious, yet your wife is so plain. My wife lost to yours. I'm not a face judge like you. It's normal for a guy in his 40s to marry a woman in her 40s, right? Getting a cute wife in her 20s is something out of a manga. They both seemed to laugh innocently.
Yeah.
This high-rise condo has a gym and even fancy bars. Not like the cheap pubs you go to. I'll treat you to a drink, it's really stylish. Saying that, John and Andrew went off to the bar in the condo. John was acting big in front of his colleague. Just for today. Only for now. But from this day on, John started to act arrogantly.
Oh.
You went to that cheap supermarket again, didn't you? We're celebrities. It's embarrassing, so stop it. John frowned unhappily as he checked my shopping and receipts. What bothered me most was John's evening drinks. He always sat by the window and drank while looking down.
Oh.
The cars look like toys. People are so tiny too. They don't realize they're being looked down upon as they work below. John had completely changed. Buying discounted vegetables at a cheap supermarket. And making a pot together seemed like a distant memory. I was starting to feel uneasy about John. Then one day, when I returned home, I saw unfamiliar high heels at the entrance. I swallowed nervously. Could John have brought a woman home? Listening carefully, I could hear laughter from a man and a woman coming from the living room. My palms were sweaty even though it wasn't hot. I tiptoed down the corridor like a thief. As I peeked into the living room, a woman with curly hair noticed me and raised her hand.
Oh.
Tracy. How's it going? Huh? Vanessa? Sis? The tension I had been feeling instantly dissolved. It was my sister Vanessa who was drinking with John. Relief was short-lived as I began to wonder why she was here. I had told my mother about the marriage, but I hadn't told her the new address. Vanessa must have heard about the marriage from our mother. But I never expected her to show up at my home. If you're married now, you should have told me. I'm your sister, Tracy. Let me celebrate your marriage at least. Vanessa was already drunk and leaning on John's shoulder. Apparently, John had told my mother our new address during the wedding greetings. I really didn't want to reveal it. I had already told John that my family and I don't get along well. But, it's only natural to answer honestly when his future mother-in-law asks where he'll live. However, my mother's question about where I live wasn't just small talk. She probably just wanted material to look down on me. She must have laughed behind my back, thinking it was a lie that I lived in a high-rise condo. Wow, I'm shocked. I can't believe you really live in a high-rise condo. It's like, it has a certain grandeur. It's a condo yet it feels so spacious, totally luxurious. It's nothing like the old apartment our family used to have. Well,
Yeah.
this is what you call high-rise condo quality. Nice, nice. Tracy, you're amazing. I'm so jealous. While saying this, Vanessa kept touching John's arms and thighs a lot. John's smile grew wider with her blatant body contact. Tracy, you've really moved up from being the burger wife, huh? John, making a monkey-like face, suddenly tilted his head. Huh? John, didn't you hear? Tracy's ex-husband was a part-timer at a burger place. She used to go there often. It's like, not a high school romance, you know? A burger place. It's amazing she married someone with such a high school job. Her ex-husband was like a freeloader, huh? Really? Both Mom and I were so worried, we opposed the marriage. But she was like, I love him. I'm going to marry him, acting all like a tragic heroine. She went ahead and got married without telling anyone. The two of them laughed heartily while drinking beer. Talking about my ex-husband Sean was like a snack to accompany their drinks. And it felt like my head was being squeezed. I wanted to stop the conversation right now, but my body wouldn't respond. And then, about 5 or 6 years into the marriage, that husband suddenly passed away. To heaven. Poor Tracy. She didn't listen to our advice and married some weird guy. And she got what was coming to her. At that moment, I swung my right hand high up. Yipe. I snapped back to my senses at Vanessa's scream. My palm was trembling above her head. Scary. You were about to hit me, weren't you? Vanessa, who had her eyes wide open, blinked slowly. Then, like flipping a switch, she became frail and leaned weakly on John's shoulder. I was so scared. A shiver ran down my spine at Vanessa's coquettish voice. Tracy. What were you about to do to your family? John yelled at me, and I clenched my trembling palm. Sorry, but my sister. Shut up. Are you trying to make excuses after making your sister cry? I thought you were a kind woman. I was wrong. Vanessa was sobbing, showing her white teeth through overly red vulgar lips that were clearly laughing. John was gently stroking her stiff, curly hair. He was enveloping her gently, unaware that she was laughing. But, hearing bad things about the deceased Sean. What? You still have feelings for your ex-husband? John wouldn't even listen to me. That was the moment a complete gap formed between us. It's always like this. My family looks down on me and makes me the butt of jokes. That's why I wanted to keep my distance. Vanessa, always favored by both our deceased father and mother because she was more attractive, enjoyed a student life full of fashion and dating. Meanwhile, I was encouraged by my mother to study hard because, don't worry. You can always get plastic surgery when you grow up. I worked hard at my studies because my mother would praise me if I scored 100% on a test. But after continuing to score 100% 3 times, it became expected. And I would be scolded for missing even 1%. Tracy, you're so good at studying. I'm proud of my smart little sister. I even brag to my friends that you're studying hard for your future plastic surgery expenses. I was often ridiculed by Vanessa, who is not good at studies but is glamorous. Even now as an adult, must I be laughed at by my family? I wasn't even allowed to defend the deceased Sean when he was spoken ill of. Worse yet, even John joined in laughing and blaming me, which was incredibly frustrating. A week has passed since then, and our marriage is still strained. John really liked living in the high-rise condo, but lately, he's been coming home late. He probably doesn't want to see my face. John avoids our bedroom and lethargically shuts himself away in a spare room. In this large house, we can hardly sense each other's presence. It feels like the emotional distance between us is widening. I decided this couldn't go on. The next day, after John returned from work, I gathered my courage and spoke to him. John. It's cold today. Would you like to have a pot together? John, who was about to head to his room, glanced at the dining table. Warm steam rose from the earthen pot, and the gentle aroma of broth filled the air. Huh? His response was cold. A pot? I don't want to eat something so plebeian. If you want to cheer me up, serve something like caviar or foie gras. Despite never having eaten them, John shrugged in disbelief. Then he looked me up and down and sighed heavily again. Huh, not you. My mistake. With those words, John disappeared into his room. My mistake. I was soon to learn what that meant. Hi Tracy. One day, I was greeted at the entrance by Vanessa. She was unusually cheerful, smiling broadly. Behind her, John was scratching his head, grinning. Vanessa and John looked happy and embarrassed. As if they had something to say but couldn't quite bring themselves to say it. What's going on? Were you drinking and badmouthing me and Sean again? No, you're just paranoid. As I tried to go in through the entrance, Vanessa stopped me. Wait. Could you please not enter this house anymore? What? How do I say this? Right, John?
Yeah.
Vanessa, you tell her. Like a shy couple, Vanessa and John were awkward. Well, you see, we've fallen in love. Huh? In front of the foot-stomping Vanessa, I responded listlessly. Vanessa is not a high school student. She's a woman in her 40s with crow's feet. Somehow, I felt embarrassed. Tracy, you still like your ex-husband, right? I'm hurt. So, it's only natural for me to change my heart to Vanessa, right? Huh? I nodded, but couldn't comprehend. Tracy, I'm really sorry. Her apology lacked any real emotion. Vanessa clasped her hands in front of her chest, puckered her lips, and tilted her head slightly. She leaned in close and whispered in my ear. I'm taking the rich husband and the condo. As a thank you, I'll introduce you to my ex-boyfriend. The intense smell of toilet air freshener gave me a headache. Her bright red lips barely touched my ear, sending chills down my spine. It's okay. Relax. The ex is also a part-timer. You like such loser guys, right? A plain person like you doesn't suit a rich husband or a condo. Just leave already. Vanessa finally backed away from me, after breathing her fishy breath on me. I was completely stiffened. Vanessa crossed her arms and puffed out her chest with satisfaction. Leave, you say? I had unconsciously held my breath, so my chest felt tight. I was panting heavily. Leave. My disordered breathing made it hard for me to speak properly. At this, Vanessa laughed loudly. Oh no. Tracy, don't cry. Poor Tracy. Tracy, I'm sorry. But I've decided that I'm going to live with Vanessa from now on. As I seemed about to hyperventilate, John ruthlessly thrust the filled-out divorce papers at me. Receiving them only made me feel worse, and I crouched down clutching my stomach. Ha! 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 I could painfully feel the stares of Vanessa and John. I couldn't stand it anymore. Ha!
Ah.
Ahaha. I raised my face, which had been downturned, and let out a huge burst of laughter. What have you been saying? Why do I have to leave? My sudden burst of laughter might have seemed strange. Vanessa twisted her face and took a step back. Because the house is all in my name? I said, wiping a tear from the corner of my eye. Vanessa frowned suspiciously, and John gave a slight smile. Huh? Do you understand what being presented with divorce papers means? John and you are getting divorced. He and I will live here, so the unwanted person should disappear. It seems my ramblings were taken as the talk of a mad woman. The house already smelled strongly of Vanessa. Looking behind her, I noticed a pair of rumpled tights discarded on the living room floor. I realized there was no longer a place for me here. Clinging to a house that smelled of Vanessa seemed pathetic. Maybe we should move to another house? No way. I really like this high-rise condo. John invited Vanessa with a relaxed smile. They seemed to be plotting something, but it was no longer my concern. Fine. I'll leave, so do as you like. A grinning Vanessa said assertively. It's good you understand. So, John and I will live in this high-rise condo. Don't complain later. Sure. I wish you happiness. Then, I packed a duffel bag with my belongings and left the room where I was supposed to have a happy married life with John. A few days later, when I returned from the store, I bumped into Vanessa and John at the entrance of the condo. Are you still lurking around inside the condo? Creepy. Just leave already. Oh, you don't have anywhere to go and you're sleeping in this entrance?
Aww.
That's sad. Man, having a homeless person in the entrance of a luxury high-rise condo, spare me that. They pitted me based on their own assumptions. I ignored them and headed for the elevator. What? You want to pick up your stuff? No way. The room will get dirty if plain, poor-looking Tracy enters. I'll send it to you as cash on delivery, so don't enter my house. Which park should I send it to? Or maybe a station? As I walked briskly, Vanessa and John followed me like tagalongs. Just as I was about to press the elevator button, John hurriedly stopped me. Hey, Tracy. That's the elevator for the upper floors, isn't it? Are you out of your mind? Maybe she's gone senile from the shock of being dumped by John?
Oh.
I see. It was good to get rid of that senile old fool. I wouldn't want to deal with caregiving. I pressed the elevator button without a care. Hey, stop messing around, homeless person. It's disrespectful to the celebrities living on the higher floors. When I entered the elevator, Vanessa and John's eyes widened as they looked at each other. They slipped into the elevator just before the doors closed. John seemed exhilarated, as if he was on an amusement park ride. Since it was his first time in the high-floor elevator. The elevator then stopped on the top floor. Hey, this is not good. This isn't a place for homeless people. Just stop. The real celebrities will get mad at us. I don't know you. While trying to hold me back, Vanessa and John looked around curiously. I continued to ignore them and opened the door to the room in front of me.
Oh.
Hey, you can't just go into someone's home. I glanced at them and entered the room. John, flustered, reached for the door just as it was closing. He slowly pulled it open and stepped into the room on the top floor of the high-rise condo. Hey, Tracy. What do we do? Shall we go in? After hesitating at the entrance for a while, they tiptoed into the hallway. Wow. John couldn't help but exclaim as he entered the living room. The room, with walls of glass, offered a panoramic view of the city. It was nothing like the fifth floor. Why? Sitting comfortably on the sofa, I finally met Vanessa and John's gaze. Why? Because this is my house. Vanessa and John's mouths hung open, their jaws nearly dropping. I had to move to this top floor room because I was suddenly kicked out of my home. Oh, and you said you'd send the rest of my stuff COD, right? Please send it to this room. They seemed about to scream but just opened and closed their mouths. Why? Because it's my house. How many more times must I say this is my house? I told you, everything is in my name. The room you're living in, and this room, they're both mine. Huh? What? I didn't know you owned the top floor too. I thought the best place you had was that room on the fifth floor. Did you deceive me? John had lived in an apartment I owned until we got married. When he asked if I had any better properties, he wanted to live in the highest grade room. I didn't deceive you. The person who lived here just moved out recently. No way. The top floor? Me on the fifth floor, and Tracy on the top. No way, that's a joke. You must be kidding, Tracy. John twisted his mouth and scratched his head in frustration. Vanessa, are we okay with just the 5th floor? Are we okay living below Tracy? Let's move to a taller condo, one where we can look down on the skytree, not just see it.
Yeah.
Let's move. John, let's find a condo taller than this one where we can look down on the bridge. They held hands, their eyes sparkling with visions of a grand future.
Yeah.
So, Vanessa, do you own a taller condo? Huh? No, of course not. I see, that's a shame. Well, we'll just have to buy or rent the usual way. Vanessa, please take care of it. Huh? What? What? The sparkle from earlier was nowhere to be found. The two were frozen in confusion. Hey, I've been a bit confused since earlier. What do you mean by Tracy owns the house? Is this really Tracy's house? Vanessa asked with a forced smile.
Yeah.
Well. Tracy being cheeky. You studied hard just to save up for plastic surgery. But in the end, you didn't spend the money on surgery but bought a high-rise condo instead? No, that's not it.
Oh.
I see. It's a loan. You took out a loan, right? With a loan, you can buy anything expensive, right? So that's the trick. Don't surprise me like that. Vanessa convinced herself and nodded with her arms crossed. But you can't beat John, right? John owns several rooms on the 2nd and 3rd floors of this high-rise condo. Not to mention he has lots of other lands and apartments. You're not in the same league as Tracy. John kept his mouth shut and looked away, embarrassed. But all that is also mine. Because I own this entire high-rise condo. What? But John said it was his. Vanessa's pleading gaze turned to John. She had expected to see a confident John, but the real John had a pale, strained face. John, Tracy is lying, right? Well, it's not exactly mine. It's ours, as a couple. John mumbled his words, and I clarified clearly. It seems like John boasted to Vanessa as if my properties were his own. What a pathetic man. No way. The one who lied was John. Vanessa collapsed on the spot in shock. This can't be right, Tracy. This is a lie. John, looking uncomfortable, gave a strange smile and apologized, sorry. It was a straightforward apology, but it didn't reach Vanessa, who was in a daze. Unable to bear the heavy atmosphere, John started laughing awkwardly. I'm sorry. I own nothing. But my feelings for Vanessa are real. I'll always be there to support Vanessa. John. Vanessa's cheeks turned slightly red. Money or love? Surely not. So, Vanessa, how much do you own? What? Own what? What? Like land or apartments? What? I don't own anything like that. What? Why? Vanessa and John looked confused, their eyebrows moving up and down. Vanessa, you're more loved by your parents than Tracy. So you should naturally be favored, right? What happened to the apartments you inherited from your father? Inheritance? What are you talking about? Did you somehow manage to lose all the apartments you got? What are you talking about? Vanessa screamed, and finally, they both fell silent. They faced off as if in a staring contest, making funny faces, eyes wide open. Mouths downturned, teeth bared. In this staring contest, I concede defeat. John, it seems there was a misunderstanding. I do own a lot of apartments and land, but it's not because I inherited them from my father. You can't buy 1 or 2 high-rise condos just by studying hard. But I didn't inherit it from my father. Vanessa and John swallowed hard, caught up in their assumptions. I inherited it from Sean. Vanessa looked puzzled for a moment but then burst out laughing. Sean, the guy from the burger shop? Yes, but he wasn't just some part-timer. I had explained this to my family when I decided to marry him. It's true we met at a burger shop, but Sean was not a part-timer there. He owned the land the shop was on. It was mysterious how they twisted it into him being a mere employee. No matter how much I corrected them, they laughed it off saying,
Yeah. Yeah.
a grown man working part-time. Sean came from a family of wealthy landowners, very rich. To make it clear, I said it in a way that almost made Vanessa's eyes pop out. Sean was rich enough to live a life of leisure without working at the burger place. In reality, Sean worked diligently, and I didn't quit my job just because I married him. We could have lived in leisure, but we didn't, and that's why the fortune remained intact. Moreover, I learned investing and nearly doubled the fortune I inherited from Sean. John's lips trembled faintly. You said it was an inheritance, Tracy, but why your ex-husband? I thought it was your father's estate. Normally, inheritance comes from parents. That's why I thought Vanessa, being more loved than you, would have a huge fortune. If both are wealthy, naturally one would choose the more attractive Vanessa over plain Tracy. You tricked me. John barked weakly. Of course, I had told him about inheriting from my deceased husband. Why do people who make assumptions always go so far? I didn't know that. I haven't heard it. I never bragged about being rich, though I repeatedly asserted that Sean was not a part-timer. Vanessa's ears and brain just shut that out. Tracy being rich? Tracy owning a high-rise condo? Unforgivable. With such people, you have to be blunt, not sugarcoat your words. Sorry, someone inferior to you, own real estate worth $190 million. Despite being less worthy than you, Vanessa, I live comfortably above you. Vanessa inexplicably covered her head with both hands and slumped to the floor. No words came out, but tears of frustration did. I walked to the window and looked outside. John, want to see the view? It's quite different from the 5th floor. You'll never see it again in your life, so why don't you take a good look? John staggered over to me. Then, unbelievably, he put his arm around my shoulders. Sorry. I was wrong. I just got distracted because I thought Vanessa looked like she had a lot of money. Think about it. Do you think I'd like someone flashy like Vanessa? Ugh. Creepy, creepy. John turned his gaze out the large window, captivated by the sprawling view. People look like toys. No, they're like trash. I gently placed my hand on John's, which was on my shoulder. Then John squeezed my hand and smiled gently. Tracy, I love you. John, I don't love you. What? I shook off his hand roughly. John, who abandons his newlywed wife to cheat, is nothing but trash. By the way, the divorce papers you unilaterally thrust at me that day have been filed. Have you enjoyed the view from the top floor? Trash should act like trash and head back down now. With that, John, still making the most handsome face he ever had, froze solid. After that, Vanessa and John continued to live on the 5th floor of the high-rise condo. Considering how much John belittled Vanessa, they obviously aren't living happily together. One day, there were 2 people clearly lying in wait at the entrance of the condo. As soon as they noticed me, they rushed over, tripping over their feet. Tracy. I finally caught you. Hey, what is this about? I knew what the document they showed me was about without even looking. What about it? It's a rent bill. It's written in English, so you can read it, right? So why? Why are you trying to take money from us? Of course. Why would you think you could live here for free? As I responded calmly, Vanessa sidled up to me. You're so cold. We're family, aren't we? You can kick out this trashy guy. But as family, I have a right to live here for free, right? No. Have you forgotten what you did? Stealing a sister's husband and destroying her family, and then you talk about family? I have no family. Vanessa weakly murmured, Tracy. I was jealous of how happy you seemed, Tracy. I'm really in trouble. Vanessa burst into tears. While sobbing, she told how she was in a difficult situation. My ex-boyfriend was a part-timer, but he spent quite well. When I asked him, he was really good at using credit cards. Did you know? If you use revolving credit, even if you spend $1,000 one month, you only have to pay $100 the next month. It's a good deal, right? But Vanessa sniffed as if regretting something. Before I knew it, I was made to shop until the credit limit was maxed out. And then he dumped me. Isn't that sad? I have no money, so let me stay in the high-rise condo. She had intended to introduce that ex-boyfriend to me. So, you got dumped. But it's okay. You still have John. Maybe that ex-boyfriend and John are similar. Both are equally worthless. I heard John was into investing, but he never shared any details with me. Probably couldn't say that he blew most of his salary on horse betting. Being wealthy doesn't necessarily mean dressing lavishly. Sean and I were very plain because we didn't waste money. I thought John was the same before we married. I misjudged him to be a humble and kind person without knowing much about him. When our relationship was going through a rough patch, I almost fainted when I found a pocketful of betting tickets. I wish you happiness with John, whom you took from me. Oh, and by the way, the rent is due tomorrow. Don't forget to pay it. That's impossible. If it's impossible, then please leave. Despite my reasonable response, Vanessa wailed loudly. But we're family, and John clung to my leg crying, I love Tracy. This high-rise condo felt more like a nursery school. Disciplining these tantrum throwers is not my job. Eventually, Vanessa and John were unable to continue living in the high-rise condo and had to leave. I also moved out, so I no longer have to worry about being ambushed by them. The top floor of the high-rise condo was nice, but it didn't fit me. What a great view today. I leaned out from the balcony on the second floor. The ocean stretched as far as I could see in front of me. My life in the city felt like being swallowed by a sea of dark buildings. Now that I'm away from the city, I've changed my residence and job, starting anew. My neighbors share vegetables and seafood with me. There are congenial seniors at my workplace. Life doesn't always require parents, siblings, or a spouse. It's fine to spend time with people you like. Even without a family, I'm perfectly happy on my own. Come to think of it, Sean also loved the ocean. I'm a free-spirited single. But in my heart, there's always Sean, smiling. I'm alone, but I'm not lonely.